ready for Corona Camp.
Are you wearing that the whole time? All right.
Probably not, just for the intro, right?
Okay, here we go. I'll intro. Hey guys, and thanks so much for tuning in to this week's Original Strength BodCast. This week I'm with my friend Miss Sarah Young, and we are talking about life inside of Corona Camp. Sarah, thanks for being on the show.
Hi, Tim. I've got my mask on.
I see you're practicing virtual safety from me.
I am. I probably don't need it because you're that far away, and I don't think it's going to come through the screen, and my glasses are fogging up.
I can tell.
Don't take that off.
I can see your glasses fogging up, actually.
Because they are suggesting now that if you go out, it's good to cover your mouth because people can be asymptomatic and still transmit the virus, and you're protecting yourself, protecting other people, and yeah. And if people aren't staying a distance from you, if you start doing the dap into your elbow, they'll get away from you.
They will, and they'll think you're cool though if you can do that. You gotta do it right though. You can't like do several coughs into your elbow. It's got to be one and done, unless you're unless you're dancing the whole way with it. But again, you got to sell it.
Yeah, because life in Corona Camp, and that's a fun way to describe it. But and it's not to minimize. Like, people are having a really tough time out there, and there are people who are dying, and it's not just old people; it's young people, and it's very sad, and it's kind of taken life as we know it and like hard stop. So to me, with something like that, you got to take it and make something, find some positive, take some positive away from it, right? Otherwise, you're just stuck in the negative. So I think it's almost like allows us to press reset.
We're all getting a forced reset.
Yes.
But we can choose to press reset. I know personally, probably my greatest self-therapy has been to start doing things that make me laugh. Or something that I can find joy in. So hence the stupid videos I've been making lately. But it makes me feel good, and it takes my mind off of other stuff. And
they're funny, and they're lighthearted, and there's no mean-spiritedness in the humor and that kind of thing. So I think that's it's very uplifting, just to raise spirits, because it's very easy to like get all, oh my God, I have to worry, and am I going to get it? Is somebody I know going to get it? And just on and on and on. And our minds are powerful things, and we can, I believe, envision pathways that are hope and positivity versus getting stuck in despair. And a lot of that is a response to, stress. Most people, respond to stress with fight, flee, or freeze. But there's a whole tend and befriend aspect of it. That is wired into us because we as a species survive better when we can depend on our tribe. And right now, the whole planet Earth is one tribe that this virus is affecting. So if we can tend and befriend, if we can help others, and by doing those videos, you're tending and befriending. You're putting them out there just to help lift up the spirits.
So fight, flight, or freeze, that typically is a great reaction if you're in an immediate threat, right?
Right.
But if something like Corona Camp, where it's ongoing and you really don't know when it's going to end, and your typical way of life, your normal is just like your normal, my normal has stopped, and a lot of people's normals have stopped depending on what their vocation is and stuff. But you don't see an end point, so that fight, fright, or freeze it seems like it doesn't let up, or it doesn't dissipate because it just hangs on.
And there's things you can do that keep feeding that fight, flee, or freeze.
Yes.
I mean, you can keep looking at the news right and left, and keep reading all this stuff and reading all the opinion pieces, or listening to people offering their opinions about how, it's all, the world's going to go trashed and we're never going to get back to normal. But to me, it's like, I'm not going to go there. Plenty of people are going there. I'm going to view what what good we can bring out of all this, what we can learn, how we can create a path forward. So we don't let that fight and freeze and flee. I think there's just some very good things that we can do for ourselves. What we eat, right? That's huge. Not having a bunch of quarantinis left and right, because that's not going to help you come out of that fight, flee, or freeze. Getting good sleep, movement, good movement. And I think, there's some really good people out there doing some amazing things offering movement. Mark Shropshire, what he's doing, offering those workout sessions, those training sessions. With his level of expertise, that is a beautiful thing he's doing, and I put that in the Tinder Befriend camp. So instead of being in the stress land of fight, flee, freeze, he's taking it over where he's doing something constructive, where he's offering something to help other people. That's huge. Danny doing the press reset thing for 15 minutes, letting people come in and do it live. You doing just those silly, stupid videos is another thing. It's allowing a different avenue where you can help, other people can be helped, and then other people like me can look at it and benefit just by seeing how you're helping other people.
So let's take some of those things. How can a person relieve their stress or mitigate it or even pull out of it with food? How does that work? Like how could you eat that would help you with stress, and also how could you eat that would not help you, that would actually add to your stress?
Well, I think it's the same stuff we've all known about eating all the time. Eat your vegetables, right? Eat your vegetables. Avoid processed foods. If you're into meat, eat some lean, good cuts of meat, fish. Stay hydrated. Make sure you don't go overboard with too much coffee. But those things have never changed, even though people want to debate them for all these different angles. Like, do you eat gluten? Do you not eat gluten? Do you stay away from dairy? It all depends. It all depends on a person.
I think those are the thoughts that actually add to your stress level. Like I've seen other people do it, and I've even experienced it, where you get stuck on a mindset or a way of eating, and you create a rigid list of rules about it, or almost a religion about it, where it stresses you out. Like,
right.
Like, are you going to be pure vegan? Are you going to be raw? Are you going to be gluten free? Like you can just come to a lot of stress about those kind of things.
And that's not going to help digestion.
Nope.
That's just going to make it more likely that you'll absorb fewer nutrients out of the food you're taking in. And I think even simple things like when you sit down to eat, be grateful. Be grateful for the food on the plate. Be grateful for the farmers. Be grateful, in my way of looking at it, the animals, the plants that gave their lives so that I could eat, right? Being grateful for all that, because there are a lot of people who don't have food. And I think eating and enjoying your food and chewing your food and having that sense of gratitude when you eat helps digestion and absorption.
Digestion and absorption is huge, especially on stress levels, because I remember, and you know how you live a certain way and you're not really aware that you're living a certain way. When I was a firefighter, you never knew when you were eating, if you're going to get to finish your meal. Because if the alarms went off or the bell went off, you had to go jump on the truck. So I learned how to eat extremely fast without even necessarily tasting or chewing my food. Because I was always afraid that I wasn't going to get to finish my meal, which was weird. But that carried over even when I wasn't at the fire department. You
might have some chunks of that food still in you that hasn't digested yet. Just kidding.
Since my bout in the Philippines, I'm sure that I don't have any of that in me anymore. So even when I wasn't at the fire department, though, somehow I was unconscious that I was always eating fast. And I would eat fast for years, long after I left the fire department. So I came across this book called The Eye of Revelation, where the guy talks about chewing your food until it's liquid before you swallow it. And I have found that to be a tremendous help or practice to like actually enjoying a meal and not having it last less than 3 minutes.
I can't remember the study exactly, but I believe there's studies that the more you can take in the smells, the visual, the bright colors of the food, hopefully you have bright colors, hopefully you have bright colored vegetables, the more you can take all that in, that starts the digestion process. But if you don't bother and you eat mindlessly and you just face down into your plate and try to eat it in 2 bites, you don't get that. And if you think about it, eating fast, to me, goes back to that fight, flee, or freeze. It's like, got to hurry up and eat it because prey may be after me. Most of us don't have a saber-toothed tiger, in the dining room with us. We don't have to worry about that.
I'll tell you. So I had tremendous acid reflux when I was a firefighter. Because invariably I would gulp a meal down and then we would be on a fire call and it was a horrible feeling. I'm so glad I've learned how to chew my food now. But so let me ask you this. You mentioned sleep and how sleep can help with stress. What are ways to help get stress relieving sleep? Because all of us go to bed at night, most of us, but we're not necessarily all sleeping.
Well, I think that part of it is all these things play onto each other, right? It's not just you do one and everything else takes care of it. It's not like if I just eat food and then try to skimp on the sleep, eat good food and skip on the sleep. That doesn't play. You got to do it all, right?
Right.
You got to be working all the angles. I think that one of the ways that really helps with sleep, and I know it helps me, is to make sure I get some good movement during the day, right? And move in a bunch of different ways. Rolling around. That's why I love OS so much. That can help. Maybe doing just some gentle rocking and gentle breathing before you go to bed. And I think one of the things too is, what are you doing before you go to bed? Right? Are you watching a violent shoot 'em up movie where there's blood all over? Are you watching the news? That's not really the kind of stuff that's going to help you go into your dreamland to meet, Mr. Sandman. It's not going to make it really nice and lovely and rest and digest chill. It's going to keep you amped up. So you're going to sleep like a balled up fist. Does that make sense?
It does. Actually, you said it won't help you go into your dreamland. A lot of times they influence your dreamland.
Right. There you go.
As far as what you're dreaming.
What are you feeding your system before you go to sleep? Because it's going to get digested and worked around while you're sleeping. And, we have enough stress and anxiety out there. And even if I get in a very quiet place, in a very chill place, if I have contact with other people who aren't that affects me. It's all energy, and we all affect each other. So it benefits all of us to be as relaxed as we can. So, going to bed and getting good sleep, I would really say be careful of what you're feeding your body and mind and spirit before you go to sleep, like 2 hours before you go to sleep.
To me, it really comes down to protecting your heart or your mind, so to speak, where you gotta watch what you filter in through your eyes and your ears. And I'm not saying be an ostrich and stick your head in the ground,
Right.
It's good to have awareness.
Yep.
But I don't think it's good to swim in all the negativity and all the other information. There are a lot of so you said everything's energy. It is hard to avoid negative-minded people during this Corona camp. It's if you do go out into the public and you even respecting social distance,
right.
Now it seems like there's a lot less eye contact. There's a lot less smiling. It's almost as if heads are down or people you can feel the energy.
Right.
And then if you get on social media and you look at your feeds, well, that's the trap in itself. But
these things, these devices are geared to suck you in.
Right.
And this is where most people read their news, or they get it in
but it's
Facebook or Twitter. And those are also designed to keep you sucked in.
So they become pits, though, like, or black holes
Yep.
that just suck you, and they'll suck the life out of you. I know people that every day throughout the day they have to look at the numbers of the new confirmed cases, and I just don't know that a lot of good can come from that. For me, I like to be away from those numbers. I'm aware that this happening, but I don't necessarily want to dwell on the numbers every 30 minutes throughout the day either.
Well, I mean, to me, I just know that the numbers are going to go up,
Yeah.
so I don't need to dwell on the actual numbers. And a friend of mine, Rami, he's been shifting his news about coronavirus to not read op-eds and stuff, but looking more towards the science of what is done, what's being done, and then really limiting it. I think that's good, good advice. And I think it's also important to practice the Mr. Rogers approach. Look for the helpers, right? Because there are a lot of people who are doing spectacular things, helping however they can. And then you've got people, I know here in Michigan, a number of companies have started making masks. Distilleries are making hand sanitizer. The personal protection, like the mask, the personal protection equipment that hospitals need. There's a nurse in Ann Arbor who started working with some people with 3D printers. He's making the plastic masks for people with the head thing, and he's doing it with the library in Ann Arbor. Their people are running their 3D printer like 24/7 to keep turning those things out. They're putting them together. They've got pilots who are flying these to Indiana, to the UP, wherever it's needed. Then you got the people working in the grocery stores and shipping. I mean, I'm always saying thank you to those folks because they're showing up and they're playing a really important role. The people who are on the front lines. In New York City at 7 p.m., you've got people cheering the healthcare workers who are doing the work that they're doing. Those are people who are putting goodness out there.
So, like, I've had this childhood fantasy that we're all supposed to be superheroes.
Yep.
What an amazing world, though, that we live in, where and especially if you realize it, your grocery store cashier is a freaking superhero. Like,
Yep.
And she may only be 17 years old. It's amazing. I mean, so there are so many wonderful, beautiful things where, like, I'm seeing these kids check out groceries when everybody else around them is stressed the flip out.
Right.
And they're scared, and they're buying too much toilet paper, and they're buying, like, all this crazy stuff. Yeah. And you've still got this nice little teenage kid that's either paying for their way to hopefully save up for college or for their car and their gas money, and they're showing up. And how do you rationalize that as a teenager with everything else that's going around you, and you're still there smiling, being the hero, because and everybody needs you.
It reminds me of the Ram Dass saying, treat everybody you meet as though they're God in drag.
Well, okay, yes.
Yeah. And people are out there doing the works of superheroes, and we really, it might be a 17-year-old kid checking you out at the grocery store, but there's a lot of goodness they're bringing to the world. And there's other simple things, like Dolly Parton is doing these every Tuesday or Thursday. She reads a kid's book. And you can join in with Dolly reading a book.
Chris Stalinsky, for his birthday on Facebook, he's like, if you want to wish me a birthday or don't give me anything or don't donate anything, just look at the person's name tag that's serving you, and thank them by their name. And that was probably 2 months ago when he posted that. But that is such a wonderful practice and especially now, like, I am so aware of people's name tags, especially today. Like, I cannot go into, like, so when the teenager's checking me out at the grocery store, I'm checking out their name tag. It is just such an amazing awareness that is, it makes it, and there, I don't know, it just makes everything so real, so personal, so lovely.
Well, and it's also tend and befriend, right?
Yes.
Because you're acknowledging what they're doing to help you, to serve the whole community. And calling somebody by their name is really important. That's why we have names, right? So whether it's somebody offering their workout expertise, like you or Danny, or your humor, or looking for the helpers, people who are trying to make things a little bit better. It helps the people who are doing the helping. It also helps us, and it's huge. And I think making sure we take time to call or text or send emails to people we care about, asking them how they're doing, right? I'm still trying to figure out how to as a self-employed person, how to file for unemployment, because I'm going to supposedly be able to do that. And I wasn't finding anything. And I've got a former client who now lives in South Carolina, and I was sending a message to her. She found information for me like that, sent it right back, and I had been looking. So even those little things where we can help. And I also think one of the really important things is compassion, right? Compassion and kindness. And compassion, to be able to listen to somebody when they're struggling and to bear witness to that while still holding our place where we don't get enveloped by that sadness or that anxiety. That we create space for both things to exist. That somebody is hurting or has anxiety, but we don't have to fix it necessarily. We don't have to make it all better for them. We just need to bear witness.
That's a delicate balance to me, because a lot of, and it's all around us, but we all know somebody, even if it's not ourselves, that is suffering,
right.
And they hurt, and they don't know what to do, and when you listen to them, like, your heart just hurts,
right?
And like, so you struggle with, how do I? Is there something I can say? And really, words almost fall, like, they just don't, they're comforting sometimes, but sometimes they just feel so helpless, if you're offering them, because the person hurts so much.
Right, but then is that focus on you, the person wanting to do something, or the person?
Like I see, yeah, right? it's such a balance, right? So
yeah.
is it you're just there to listen, to kind of, I don't know, like you said, to hold space, but there's just a lot.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. It's hard because you can feel, again, because it's energy, and you can feel the hurt, and you can see it, you can hear it, you can literally, you can feel it. So that is a challenge.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes, letting people know that, yeah, I understand. You're scared. I understand that, and I understand it makes sense that you're scared, and to validate what they're feeling. But most people don't want to go to those messy areas of feelings. They just want to go in and fix it. Many years ago, I worked at a crisis center, and we had a bunch of, no offense to lawyers, we had a bunch of lawyers come in through the empathy training, wanting to learn empathy to help they wanted to help people who are in crisis. But as attorneys, we're so set and so trained to always look for the specific way, through their gray matter, logic, whatever, to find an answer to help somebody. They couldn't get the whole level of feeling, the empathy. Eventually they did, but it's not about fixing other people. It's just about serving and being there and holding the space.
I think one of the greatest challenges right now is because of the invisible enemy, and I'm talking about the virus.
Yeah.
So typically, if somebody's hurting and they're in your space, like in your face space,
yeah,
it is so easy to be able to just reach out and hug them.
Yep.
And now, not that you can't, it's should you, and
right.
Honestly, sometimes, yeah, I think you should. I have struggled with this for 3 weeks, not just in this area, but like doing the best thing or trying to figure out what the best thing is, because all the rules are out the window. Like,
right.
I don't know the rule book or the playlist for this what we're doing right now.
Well, here's the thing. There was an article I remember reading about the women's softball coach here at University of Michigan, because she's just like a legend. She's been around forever, and she's really well loved. And she talked about having to break the news to her players some of them who are seniors. There wasn't going to be a season this year, right? And she said how much harder it was to do it this time than even after 9/11. Because at 9/11, you could hug, you could touch, and you couldn't now. And so I think with that, it's more important to learn all the other skills that we have. And there's the Buddhist meditation, I think it's Buddhist, of Tonglen, where you meditate and you will, on the inhale, you take in the suffering of the other person and you feel it, and then you let it transmute into yourself and then come out, and it heals in you, and then let it come out to heal the other person. So you might breathe in fear and anxiety, and then you would exhale love and peace, safety.
That sounds beautiful, actually.
Yeah. So that's some of what I've been practicing with people I can't be right there, because once again, everything is energy, and people might think I'm crazy, and I am a little bit, but knowing that I can still set out the energy intention for other people. And I think just, other things to help is just to show up and be willing to listen and be there for people, and also allowing people to be there for you. Like if you're having a rough day, make sure you let somebody you care about know, right? Say, I'm having a rough day with this. Because the other thing is, for a lot of people, if they identified with the job that they did, and now they can't do that job, who are they, right? If people are used to working with groups of people, and that's been part of really how they define themselves, you've taken that out. So who are they?
So let me set the stage, because we didn't do your introduction properly. I would call you a healer. To me, you said you're a sole proprietor. To me, you're in the business of helping other people heal and feel better, recover. And so as a healer, what ways would you offer for people right now to help recover from stress, heal from stress, or just take care of themselves, whatever that looks like? What kind of self-care would you, because to me you're an expert in healing others and helping others, what would you offer?
I would say, first off, breathe, right? Take some deep breaths in and out, and realize you need to put on your own oxygen mask first. You can't just be trying to help everybody and fix everybody and doing all this other without taking care of yourself. And the other thing is, it's not my job to fix anybody else. My job is just to hold space so that they can find their own way to the healing, right? And for me to just hold that space. So I think it's important for people to hold space for other people, but also hold space for themselves. As much as I'm going to be compassionate with other people, to keep healthy and deal with stress, I need to hold space for myself, that two things can exist, that I can hurt really, really bad, that I can be stressed, that I can have that anxiety, and I also can be grounded in peace and do things that ground me there. Then it goes back to the eating well and sleeping well and being careful of what you take in media-wise. And I also believe you can choose how you are going to respond to stress. Are you going to get into fight, freeze, or flee? Or are you going to maybe, I could do that, or I could tend to befriend. I could pet the dog. I could, just spend some time with my child. I could reach out and just send a text to a friend. So it's where you want to be with that stress. And I think about the saying, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. I don't need to fight, right? But I can connect with compassion to somebody else. And it's hard to connect with compassion if I'm like this and fists are up and I'm ready to fight or run like hell to get away, if that makes sense.
It does. The hard part about the choosing how you respond to stress or your situation or your circumstance is, in order for you to choose, you have to be aware.
Right.
Some
True.
people are on that automatic response where
Mhm.
it's just reaction is either habitual reaction, pre-programmed reaction, or they're just not checked in to where they actually are.
Mhm.
So do you have any tips to help people discover or remain their awareness? Like how can you check in with yourself to know to choose how you're gonna respond to the situation?
Well, one thing I'll throw out there is there's a great book out there. It's called The Upside of Stress.
I've heard of that.
And, yep. And it's written by Kelly McGonigal, who's a psychologist, and she spent a long time telling people that stress was harmful. And we all have heard stress is harmful. I've heard that. But the thing is, if we always think stress is harmful, it's much like you said about the eating, right? If you're always worried about it, you're going to get more worked up and get more in stress zone. If we think stress is harmful and we find ourselves stressed, we're either A, going to deny it, or B, think, oh my God, I'm going to kill myself with all this stress. When it does not have to be harmful. We have a stress response for a reason. We just haven't chosen the other way to do it. So that book is great, I think, for people who are going through stress. That would be a great resource to have. I also think going back to the breath, right? Slowing down a bit. If you find yourself talking like, where words are just like boom, 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 slow down your breath. Slow down your words, right? Allow there to be room for pauses, because if you talk a little slower, your system's going to come down a bit. I think checking in with your body to see if you're holding tension someplace. In the somatic world, there's a thing called somatics where they do pandiculations. And it's just taking, like you can do a seated flower move where you just kind of roll down, eyes stay on the horizon. All of this shoulder to this hip, this shoulder to this hip, all this is rounded. And then you slowly come out of it. Roll your shoulders back. And then come back to neutral to discover where you have some tension. And I just discovered some tension right here that I didn't know I had. So doing things like that can help you come out of it. I would say moving a little slower with things, to notice, to give yourself time to notice. Play with your kids, play outside. Take time to in this downtime to not think that you have to do everything that was on your to-do list for the last 10 years, plus learn 5 new languages. Because a lot of people are like, oh, I got to do all this stuff with my time. Maybe you just need to be.
So you mentioned, how did you say it? In my defenselessness, my safety lies.
My safety lies.
Did that come from a course work in
miracles?
Awesome.
Yep.
And this could be a good season for miracles right now.
Right. And if you think about it, we're in the Holy Week. And, Jesus is always presented as, arms out to the side. Like, he's ready to take people in, hug the little children, hug the big kids, all of that. He's not, right? Doesn't got his dukes up. He's just there. And you know what? He's kind of like, do whatever you're going to do to me. I'm just going to keep loving people, healing people, do whatever you want to do, because even if you crucify me, I'm going to be back in 3 days. It's just, and I think that, if we juxtapose this whole coronavirus, because this week is looking to be a big week up against the Holy Week and what all that means. Now, that kind of talk might freak some people out, but I think there are lessons there that are really important. That a lot of what we knew and thought was so safe and thought was so secure, our security isn't there. It is just in our beingness. In this moment right now is all any of us really have. And to be there and fully get into it. And you can do that even when you eat your lunch today. Say you're grateful for having that food and then taking the time to really experience the food, right? when you sit there with your kids to read a book, really take your time to be there with your kids, not be, right?
So there are beautiful things in all of this, like personally, and I'm sure everybody's experiencing this, but some of us get to spend a lot more time with our families.
Yeah. That can be good.
Which
that
I don't,
cannot be.
I think it's the opportunity for good.
Yeah.
Because,
there you go. Yeah.
Because it really is. Like for, my kids are sophomore and junior. They're almost about ready to go to college. This time that we're in right now actually gives me the opportunity to savor them a little bit longer.
Yep.
And then for some of us that can get outside, it's springtime.
Yep.
To just be in nature and let it soothe you. And like nature can heal you. I have taken more walks in the last 3 weeks than I have in the last 6 months, especially for the length of time I've gone walking. And it's just so beautiful outside. So I think there are a lot of opportunities in this. Like you said, this could be just a really big reset for a lot of people.
And if you think about it, is Mother Earth, right? She's getting a reset too, because people aren't driving as much, so there's less emissions, there's less everything else. So she's got a chance to take a deep breath in and out too, which I think is pretty huge. And nature just has a way of cleansing us, right? I thank the trees and everything when I go through for a walk. Thank you for giving me a little nature bath, because I need it. And you can take in, to me, in nature, you can take in so many miracles. And I think that's a great stress reliever, too, to really notice the miracles that happen in each and every moment that a lot of times we don't. Like I can take a deep breath in and deep breath out. That's pretty much a miracle.
Yeah.
And I'm privileged. I can turn on the tap and I have clean water. That's huge. Some people don't have that. So knowing what I have and then, just trying to be there for other people and be present with myself, too.
Right on. Well, Sarah, thank you very much for this self-care, soothing discussion during Corona Camp. And thank you for protecting us both with your mask.
Yes. Yes, and if you don't have masks, get some masks, wear them out in public. It can be helpful if you're going to be anywhere near people.
So before we go, my son and I, we're going out in the parks walking, and there's a lot of runners, and they're all heavy mouth breathers, and they're pushing air more than 6 feet away from their bodies. They're breathing so hard.
Yep.
So Luke and I, we got this thing. Somebody's coming, and then we just hold it until they pass, and then we're like, whew, okay.
I would also, and then I think about OS. It allows you to turn your upper body while your hips go forward. I would turn away from that too, right?
I can disassociate.
Yes, because those runners would have benefited from nasal breathing pre-Corona Camp.
Yes, it's a little hard to learn some things in the middle of a stressful time. But,
right.
Well, Sarah, again, thank you so much for being on the show. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to the OS BodCast. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Original Strength BodCast. If you made it this far, thank you so much.